So Outdoors Queensland respectfully acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands where we gather right across Queensland, and we pay respect to elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the important roles that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples play on the land, sky and waterways used for outdoor activities. I'm in Brisbane, or Meanjin, on Yagara country, which is a place of the Jagera and Turrbal peoples. And if you'd like to, you can pop in the chat the place and the country that you're joining from today. Outdoors Queensland also acknowledges the funding provided by the Queensland Government to support outdoor activities across the state, including funding that allows Outdoors Queensland to do our work. But we also acknowledge the work that various government departments and ministers do regarding outdoor activities, which includes sport and recreation, who are within the Department of Tourism, Innovation and Sport. Welcome to your session of Coffee and Conversation. My name's Dom Courtney. I'm the Executive Officer of Outdoors Queensland. Our Operations Manager, Mark Squires, is my co-host for today's session. Thank you again, Mark, for all the work you do. I'd like to welcome all of you, plus anyone else, you know, who might be watching this later. So the recordings of the sessions are available on our website and on YouTube. And this is our 7th scheduled episode of Coffee and Conversation for 2022. A little bit of an agenda there, mostly about opportunities relating to outdoor activities, and also the good old COVID-19 rules and protocols. If there's anything you'd like to add to the agenda, please speak up. And if you want to suggest any topics for discussion in future sessions, again, let me or Mark know about that. I'm more than happy to do that. We have got a pretty small group, so I think maybe it's worth just, if you guys want to, introduce yourselves and say where you're from and what you do in this space. I've already done the intros for myself and Mark, so maybe I'm just looking at my screen. Sam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm Sam. I've got 2 bent rods, so we introduce people to the environment through fishing. We run all over southeast Queensland, doing all sorts of things, from fishing lessons to excursions and incursions and parties and that sort of thing.
Nice, thanks Sam, and welcome. Jean, you're next on my screen. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jean. I run a Duke of Edinburgh Award unit, so I'm doing 6 or 7 journeys a year with them. And I also run Girl Guide unit as well. It's a separate thing. So, you know, I'm not out with Duke of Ed, I'm out with guides usually. Welcome.
Thanks, Jean. Mark, you're next on my my little hit list, and Bevo, you can probably guess that you're after Mark. Do you want to introduce yourself, Mark?
Yeah, I'm Mark. I'm the camp manager at Camp Kirby, which is just half an hour north of Toowoomba.
Terrific. Thanks, mate. Emma?
Hey, yeah, I'm Bevo. I don't know how well you'll be able to hear me. I've got a pretty loud aircon in this room, but yeah, I'm from Tas up in Cairns, and we run outdoor programs from year 1 all the way through to year 12.
Hence the need for the loud aircon, Bevo, because it's probably, what, about 35 degrees or something up there today, in a lovely winter's day.
Oh, nice and cool, actually. Nice and overcast.
Okay. Welcome. And we've just had a couple more join us. So Andrew Knight from Outdoors Victoria. Welcome, mate.
G'day, Dom. G'day, all. Not quite the air conditioning down here in Victoria, I'm afraid. The coffees are still good, but it's more heating.
Thanks, mate. And Daniel, we're just doing a quick introduction because we've got a pretty small group. Would you like to introduce yourself, mate? Everyone else has. Okay, it's challenge by choice here, I think, so we might keep on going. Alrighty, I got a few notices. Firstly, opportunity flagged as National Reconciliation Week this year, which is 27th of May to the 3rd of June. And And the theme is Be Brave, Make Change, which is being put out there as a challenge to all Australians, individuals, families, communities, organisations and government to be brave and tackle the unfinished business of reconciliation so we can make change for the benefit of all Australians. So Outdoors Queensland is, we've just had our Reconciliation Action Plan endorsed in the end of February. So we're part of this now. So I think it's probably something that a lot of organisations need to have more of a focus on. And there are opportunities for outdoor operators to participate in National Reconciliation Week. And if we haven't done that previously, I think this theme of Be Brave, Make Change is really relevant to that. So the best options really is check the website. Mark's just shared a link to that in the chat, but also check your local council for events that are coming up as an opportunity to attend an event and to have that discussion even within your own organisation about what reconciliation is about for your organisation. So I just wanted to flag that one. Another one, which again, this is quite relevant. There's the International Society for Physical Activity and Health last year released a document about the 8 investments that work for physical activity. So Outdoors Queensland has endorsed these investments, and so has our national peak body, the Outdoor Council of Australia. And the 8, you can see them on the screen there, but the 8 things are quite common sense as far as whole of school programs, active travel, active urban design, healthcare, public education, sport and recreation for all, which is quite relevant to us, obviously. Physical activity in workplaces, but also community-wide programs. So they've actually invited ISPA, the Society for Physical Activity and Health, have invited all individuals and organisations to consider endorsing the 8 investments. And it's about trying to get that physical activity embedded in national and state level policies. So it's actually a very good, really good document. I think I recommend having a look at that one. Just wanted to flag that we've endorsed it and just wanted to publicise it as well. I might just skip past that one. A bit of a summary on the, we ran a forum, an industry forum on the 26th of April, which was about trails recovery and reconstruction. So Oz Cycling and Blue Sky Trails joined us in presenting the forum. And that was in response to the extreme weather events recently experienced in Queensland, including only in the last few weeks, again in Western Queensland, significant flooding. So we had around 40 attendees for that trail recovery session, and I had a really good discussion of the issues and the process involved in recovery and reopening of trail networks. And I guess the reason we focused on trails for that is because of the importance either as the places where our adventures take place, or they're our paths to our preferred location. So whether that's about getting to the rock climbing site or actually using the trails for bushwalking, riding, etc. There's so many different options, including motorised activities. So, you know, the trail networks that we have across Queensland are quite significant and have been significantly impacted by the recent severe weather. The recording of that forum's on our website. If I do say so myself, I think it's an hour well spent. If you didn't join us, if you weren't able to join us on the day, it's there and available for you to check out. So feel free to check that out via our website. Our next forum is scheduled for Tuesday the 21st of June, and we're focusing on the Australian Adventure Activity Standards for that forum, so the implementation of the Adventure Activity Standards. So there'll be more information about that coming up, and Mark's just shared the link to the industry forums on our website. Thanks, mate. If you have any thoughts of topics that you'd like to see done in those, so they're really a single issue topic that we do those forums. So if you have any topics that you'd really like covered in more detail than we do in these sessions, please let me or Mark know. We're more than happy to talk about those sort of things. We're looking at doing one later in the year, focused primarily on insurance for outdoor operators. And then we'll do some other ones. So we're looking at what the options are to deliver more of those sessions. Just wanted a reminder, this is the Queensland Government funding and grant support for recovery from the natural disasters. And that's still open, so it's worth having a look at. We've shared this information previously, and they are looking at more support. So there's definitely opportunities there to obtain funding support, and there's information there on the Queensland Government website there, the link's on the screen there. But that one's very worthwhile having a look at if you haven't already applied for it, and let people you know at clubs, etc., know about that one. Or there's actually 3 different programs that are all linked together in relation to the support that's available from the government. For just an upcoming event, so I've asked Andrew to join us to speak about the Outdoors Victoria conference, which is at the end of the month, and I understand tickets are still available, mate. So I might hand over to Andrew to tell us a little bit about what's happening at the Outdoors Victoria conference for those who may want to abandon the lovely Queensland weather and venture down to the world of the other world of good coffee. Over to you, Andrew. You're on mute, mate, before you go too far.
Always got to be one of us. I apologise. So yeah, thanks, Dom. Thanks also to Mark at Outdoors Queensland for your support of our conference. And you know, it also just demonstrates how far we have come in the last couple of years with teamwork across standards or COVID, etc. So we'd love to see some of you pop down. There's always a good excuse to come and see some of your family and friends down in the southern states, catch a Aussie rules match or a show. So we'd love to see you, and that's for every year into the future too. So we've been doing this for 10 years. On the last Thursday and Friday in May, every single year, you can set your watch to it. Yeah, bear it always in mind. And you'll see down there on the graphic there's 4 main streams. One's around outdoor education and outdoor learning. And one is then also around the health and wellbeing. So there's quite a lot in there around sort of the bush adventure therapy piece, which is continuing to grow in its impact and presence. Then you've got outdoor businesses and not-for-profit stream. So really making sure that we're making sure that anyone who's coming along, whether they're from an outdoor business, from an outdoor education background, from a school, or whether they're from a TAFE or uni, that we're and bush kindergartens and the like, nature kindergartens, that everyone's got something that's they're going to be able to walk away with from a PD perspective, and then also around nature and climate. We've got some absolutely incredible people that are speaking on those topics. There's a compilation of workshops as well as briefings and panel discussions. And then, yeah, we've got Libby Gore opening the conference with a bang. So some of you may remember her as Elle McFeast, the comedian. She's been doing a lot on ABC radio over the last couple of years around wellbeing and the importance of the outdoors. And we've got the second in charge of our sport and recreation agency down here, government agency, opening day 1. And then we've got the Deputy Premier, Molino, opening day number 2. And it's just a really wonderful way to also catch up with a whole lot of exhibitors. We've got government agencies that exhibit, universities, TAFEs, and then also a whole lot of outdoor providers as well as outdoor retailers. So, you know, your One Planets and your Paddy Pallins, etc. So if you feel like heading down for some good coffees, we've got always fantastic hookups with the education institutions. We always have it at a uni or a TAFE. This is at a brand new building that the Deputy Premier actually opened. So everything will be absolutely smicko, and we'd love to see some of you, but pass it on to your colleagues and others that are interested in the outdoors. You know, if they are living in Vic, they should be coming along. we're lucky to have the largest annual conference in Australia with about sort of 400 attending each day. So yeah, hopefully we'd see some of you maybe this year, or some of your colleagues, and then as said, last Thursday, Friday in May every year. We'd love to see you. And we've got Andrew Boyle popping down from Outdoors Queensland, and then from every other state, we've got some representatives coming in from the peaks, which is fantastic. Any particular queries on that? I'm glad I've answered. Sorry, Dom, go for it.
No, mate, you've obviously done a good job. Yeah. So it's where is the Lilydale campus? About an hour out of Melbourne, I think you told me.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So you can literally jet down and then sky bus and then on a normal train and you're there.
Oh, right. Yep. Cool.
But there is also accommodation available on site as well. It's sort of like a Quest type situation, but a whole lot less low cost. About 120, I think it is. So yeah, so we move around from the different TAFEs and unis that actually provide either outdoor environmental studies or straight outdoor leadership type qualifications. So it's a good way of also spruiking the unis and TAFEs that are in the space.
Yep. Thanks, Andrew. And yeah, well done, mate. I'm sure there'll be a few Queenslanders dusting off the winter woolies to head down your way and enjoy your hospitality. So thank you very much, mate. I think I came down for the last one,
yeah,
which was obviously pre-COVID in 2019, and yeah, it was a very good conference. So I can highly recommend it based on past performance, mate.
Excellent. I'm sure we'll see you again soon, Dom. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and you can just book 24/7 online through our website. Yeah, thanks so much for your support, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today, mate.
Pleasure.
Righto. A couple of other things. The Scenic Rim Council, Escaping the Scenic Rim Festival, that started. It runs throughout May. It's a series of outdoor events in the beautiful Scenic Rim area. Their website talks about soft and hard adventures, which is good for all of us. And there's a 28-page program of activities on their website. So there is truly something for everyone in the Scenic Rim right throughout the month of May. There's a series of bushwalks that, including some run by Bushwood in Queensland. And Queensland Moto Park has a free come and try day for junior motorbike riders on Sunday, the 15th of May. If anyone has a budding motorbike rider in the family for the juniors, that's a pretty cool thing to be able to go and try motorbike riding at a venue like Queensland Moto Park, which is run by Motorcycling Queensland. So that's Sunday, the 15th of May. So Sunday week. So another opportunity, this one's a public consultation program. I was going to play a video, but I don't think the sound's going to work. So I'll just tell you about it. It's the Bergdahl community project that Redland City Council or Redland Coast have available. They're seeking public feedback on the draft master plan that they've released. It's an amazing project. I've actually visited the site at one of their open days, and there's a couple more open days coming up. They describe it on their website as the largest, most encompassing and diverse community project ever delivered by Redlands. And it's they really want input to create what they describe as something wonderful. So it's a 62 hectare precinct, and they've released a master plan, and we all have until the 6th of June to provide feedback on that if you're interested in that one. So it's certainly worth a look, and it's about, I guess, input your feedback to make sure that outdoor activities are considered in there. They do have quite a lot about outdoor activities in them in the draft master plan, but we want to make sure that that is cemented and considered in the final master plan that the council will adopt in the future. So I just wanted to flag that one. And we have until 6th of June for that one. So yeah, we'll put some reminders out probably in the next bulletin as well. And another opportunity, which is a little it's probably again about shaping the future. So expressions of interest are open for chair and members of the Gondwana World Heritage Advisory Committee for the Queensland section. So this one's about advice to the management of agencies and state and Australian government ministers responsible for World Heritage. So it's a government committee that is actually shaping some of those areas like the national parks that are included in the Gondwana World Heritage section, which includes like Lamington National Park. So there's some pretty significant, or very significant natural areas included in that. And that committee, specifically, the terms of reference includes members with community interest or expertise in tourism, recreation, conservation and natural resource management, as well as others, including First Nations peoples, which is great to see. So expressions of interest for that closed Friday the 3rd of June, which you've probably already penciled in your calendars as the date of our next Coffee and Conversation session, but it's also the date when this closes. So check that out if you are interested in applying for that committee. And there is an email address, which is just world.heritage@des.qld.gov.au if you want more info, but Mark's just shared the website, so that's got all that info as well. So thank you, mate. Moving right along, COVID protocols. So there have been a few changes in the last few weeks as to COVID protocols. I'll sort of go through some of that, but also I just wanted to give an update. The back to school plan for outdoor education operators. Really big thanks again to those who completed the survey, which was about quantifying the financial impact of the suspension of school camps in term 1 this year. So we sent a letter in late March to the Premier and the Minister of Education seeking a financial support package to overcome the impacts of that decision to suspend school camps. The Department of Education has actually advised they're unable to provide targeted financial support to outdoor education operators. They acknowledge the impact of that decision, explained why they made the decision, but said they can't provide financial support, unfortunately. So we've actually taken the request now to the Minister for Small Business, and we're still waiting on a response to the request. So it's probably not the answer people are seeking. We are still advocating for support to overcome the issues that we know affected outdoor operators, particularly outdoor education operators and other small businesses who provide services to outdoor ed providers. It's really about, for us, making sure the government understands and actually reacts appropriately to that. So yeah, at the moment we are still waiting on a response from the Minister for Small Business. So we will keep everyone informed as we go along. However, as we have done most sessions, just highlighting the new normal, which is the bottom line. At the moment, the physical distancing, mask wearing as required, and when you can't physically distance, good hand hygiene, staying home when sick, which shouldn't really, all these things seem to be quite common sense now. The Check in Queensland app has pretty much been not abandoned, but it's less required now. Obviously vaccinations and getting boosters, and getting COVID tests if you have symptoms. And there's also now the ability to log if you do test positive, as reporting positive tests is the other important measure the government's been really pushing. So some changes in the last month. The Public Health and Social Measures linked to Vaccination Status Direction, number 4, was revoked on the 14th of April. That public health direction had the word vaccination status in its title, but it's not the public health direction that imposes the vaccine mandate for outdoor education. So a few people, I think this has been a bit confusing, just wanted to clarify that. So this one was the legal instrument that classified some businesses, activities and undertaking as restricted. And it imposed additional requirements like the check-in app, the density limits, and the use of the COVID safe checklists, and previously the COVID safe industry plans. So that was that public health direction. It's been revoked, and that actually means that the requirements to check in, be fully vaccinated in quite a lot of venues and events, like to attend the sports stadiums and to go attend some other events, that now has been removed. So the outdoor activities as a whole haven't actually been included as restricted businesses under the direction for several months, and short-term accommodation had already been removed from restricted businesses lists. So this revocation of the public health direction on the 14th of April didn't directly impact on those aspects of our industry, but it will have an impact for operators with public facilities like cafes, and for adventure tourism operators and event organisers. So they're no longer considered restricted businesses because that's been revoked. This revocation is significant because it's a reflection of the easing of public health restrictions in Queensland. So that from that point of view, it's actually quite relevant as well. Any questions as we go along, please sing out. So the other one that has happened with the revocation of that same direction, the COVID safe checklist. Mark, I'll come to vaccinated stuff. This one, even though that says vaccination status, it's not the one that imposes the mandate for vaccination of staff in high risk settings. This is the one where you have to be vaccinated to go to a hotel or a pub or a stadium. So that's been revoked. So you're no longer, it's actually about vaccination of the participants or the customers. So that's what's been revoked. It's not about the vaccination of workers in high risk settings. So, but also the workers at those sort of venues like cafes, etc. That requirement's now been removed. And I understand why you're getting lost in it all, mate, because that's confusing, and it's partly why I wanted to go through it. So the COVID safe checklists have actually been removed now as well. They're no longer required because they were linked to that direction. And the checklist doesn't appear on the government website. But the Department of Education website still says that state schools need to use COVID safe checklists if attending school camp. So I'm expecting that'll probably be updated on the Department of Education website. But importantly, the Queensland Government website, which I've got a screenshot of there, they still have guidance about cleaning, hygiene and workplace health and safety, which are really worth checking out. There's some good information on those web pages, so it's worth a look. Thanks. Andrew's just going to head off. Thank you, mate, for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Well done. Thanks all.
Mate. Bye. So did I just skip past one? No, so that's about the COVID safe checklists. This one is the next one that they announced, and again, this is a little bit confusing, but the Friday before last, the 22nd of April, the government announced changes to rules that came in on Thursday, the 28th of April. So a couple of weeks ago. So the quarantine requirements were lifted for asymptomatic close contacts. And what they said was, if you're a close contact of someone with COVID and you have any symptoms of COVID-19, you should assume you've got COVID-19. So you've got to isolate at home, get tested, and remain isolated until your symptoms have resolved, or for 7 days if you test positive. If you're negative on a rat, they suggested getting PCR tests and continuing to isolate until your symptoms are resolved to avoid spread of any disease, which again makes sense and goes to that whole stay home if sick element. Then they went on to say close contacts, so asymptomatic close contacts were required to, could go about, they lifted the quarantine requirements, so you could go about your business outside the house, but you had to wear a mask when you're indoors and wear a mask when outdoor if you're unable to physically distance. So that only applies if you're asymptomatic, non-symptomatic. You also have to notify your employer that you're a close contact before you return to work, and have to conduct rat tests or rats every 2 days, including the first day they become aware they're a close contact. So it's not as simple as if you don't have symptoms, you know, don't worry about it. There's still quite strict rules that are covered in this direction that's on the screen there. But the interesting piece of this is that the health minister, when they announced the changes, actually said that this is another sign of Queensland moving away from the situation where all of this is governed by public health directions and moving towards considering it as a workplace health and safety measure, which involves individual responsibility and responsibility from employers to manage the issues related to COVID. So I think that's another sign of what's going on there with the close contacts, and obviously that goes towards, you know, what businesses need to do and what workers need to do, and it's something that we need to think about from the outdoor industry perspective as well. So other COVID rules and protocols, and this covers off on the vaccination for workers in high risk settings. So there's a completely separate public health direction on that one. We actually compiled a summary of COVID protocols relating specifically to school camps in Queensland and distributed that via a bulletin in April. So the vaccination requirements for workers in high risk setting direction, number 2, that hasn't changed since the 4th of February. It remains in effect. It's the one that imposes the vaccination requirements for workers in high risk settings. It includes schools and outdoor ed facilities, outside school hour care, vacation care, kindergartens, early childhood settings and family daycare providers in the definition of high risk settings associated with early childhood, primary and secondary educational settings. One of the key things in this, we've actually sought some clarification via Sport and Rec, so clarification from Queensland Health regarding the meaning of outdoor education facilities in the definition of high risk settings. So I think the current advice is whether your operation actually fits the classification, because it directly affects your legal obligations of your workers and your organisations, it's quite dependent on the operations and activities of your organisation. So I actually think we will pass on information once we have a clear answer from Queensland Health, but it is also something that organisations might want to seek independent legal advice on, whether or not your actual organisation, your business, fits the definition of an outdoor education facility. So it appears that like quite a few organisations are seeking advice on this point, because it's obviously affecting the business and you want to make sure you're complying with the legal direction. So it's something that seems to be a bit confusing at the moment out there, which is why we're seeking that advice from Queensland Health. Any questions on that one? Is that one, Mark, is that any clearer on what you were asking before? I'm just going to take that as that's all right. We'll keep moving on. The other one there of the second dot point, the Education Department rules. So they've set out their rules for state schools regarding attending camps and going on excursions on their website. It has a suggestion that schools can consider providing students and staff with rats to conduct those tests at home before attending camp to reduce the risk of becoming ill while at camp. It also has information about dealing with close contacts of any confirmed COVID-19 cases while at camp. And when we say cases, we're talking about people. So that talks about, you know, people who share an enclosed bedroom, sleep in adjacent beds in a dorm, or sleep in a cubicle or adjacent cubicle, about being close contacts. And it also includes someone who shares a tent with someone who is a confirmed case has a confirmed case. So they've changed it just recently to say that close contacts must follow Queensland Health directions. So assume on that includes the rules for the asymptomatic close contacts now. So that makes a bit of a relaxation on that. If the other students, even if they're close contacts, if they're asymptomatic, they may be able to continue to attend the camp. And if you're not considered a close contact, you can continue attending camp. It specifically says that on their website. And that applies to students, but also teachers or workers at a school camp. So just think about that as well. The other one that has come in the last couple of months is the fact that if someone's had COVID-19, and then they develop any symptoms of COVID in the 12 weeks after they complete their isolation, they don't need to get tested for COVID and aren't considered a close contact of others. So it's actually worth knowing whether participants have had COVID or have finished their isolation in the previous 12 weeks before a school camp, because the rules are different to them when it comes to whether they're considered close contacts and how you would react to that. And that's obviously a responsibility of schools, but also potentially for a school camp operator. And the other one I just put in there is about specific land manager rules and club rules. Some organisations are enforcing stricter rules than what the public health directions cover, which might be about protecting vulnerable staff, vulnerable communities, or reassuring participants that they're taking all reasonable measures for protection. So it is important to understand those rules and be able to comply with the rules of a particular land manager, and consider how you will comply with those rules and what they are. But I think the first point of call there is actually having a conversation if there is difficulty in that space. Does anyone have any questions or other comments on any of those matters? Nope. Okay. We were going to have a rep from SEQ Water join us today to speak about tree assessments, but he hasn't been able to join us today, so we might push that one off to another session at a later date. I did have a few reminders there. Inside the Outhouse, which is a terrific networking opportunity. They're running their sessions on the first and third Mondays of each month. So they've got another session coming up. I don't think we've got anyone from the Outhouse joining us today, but just check it out on their website if you're interested in that. We've also got some resources. I just wanted to flag that. The Outdoors Queensland websites, which includes Nature Play Queensland. We've also got the Great Getaways Queensland program operating, and our new one, which is Outdoors for Life, which is about developing capacity of organisations about making sure offerings are family friendly to encourage lifelong participation in outdoor activities. So we're doing plenty of work on that at the moment behind the scenes, and there's some work going on that we'll be doing there. Mark and Charlie have both been producing our e-bulletins and getting them out, so we'll continue to do that. And also check out our social media channels if you want to connect with us. Yeah, just wanted to flag all of those. The other one there, the Outdoors Queensland member referral scheme. I mentioned this last month, but I'm not sure I just wanted to highlight it. It's a program where if an existing financial member refers a new member, and the new member tells us about the referral, then the existing member actually gets allocated a credit of 10% of the value of the first year of the new member's membership fee. So you can actually reduce your membership fee for next year by referring new members this year. So I just wanted to flag that. And I just saw Mark's comments. Sorry, mate, you were on mute. You've pulled that manoeuvre. Yeah, things are still quite vague. That's why we're trying to seek that clarification. But it also, the big piece on that, I think, is actually that quite a few organisations that I'm aware of have been seeking legal advice as to whether or not they directly line into the direction and are covered by it. And some have been have had legal advice to say they do definitely apply, and others have had legal advice saying it doesn't, but there's an argument that it doesn't apply, and that you can make a decision based on that, whether you follow the rules, whether you fall into the categories that requires you to actually fit within that high risk setting definition. So it is worth looking at it.
Yeah, I'm aware of one or two, even some relatively large players who've had advice saying they could get away with it easily, depending on how they work their staff too. So, hence my interest. But yeah, thanks for your help.
Yeah, no worries, Mark. And like I say, once we get that clarification, we will pass it on, because it is I feel like it's quite confusing, and it's quite relevant too, that we need to know either way. So yeah, we'll stay on that one, and we'll stay on the also about the financial support for operators too. The slide there, the one about taking care when heading back outdoors. There are still plenty of places, or not plenty, there are still some trail networks particularly that are closed due to the impacts of the recent flooding. So Brisbane City Council's, I think, started reopening the mountain bike trails at Mount Cootha is one I'm aware of. There's quite a few different trails around the space. SEQ Water have reopened quite a few of their dams and their trail networks, but there are still some closures. So we need to make sure that we understand what closures are in place and what's going on there. So yeah. Any other questions, comments? That pretty much brings us to the end of the presentation. If anyone has any other ones that you want to talk about, more than happy to, if you want to just unmute yourself and fire away. Anyone? Hand up? If not, we're pretty much done. So we can all have an early mark and finish up there if you like. Our next session, which I mentioned earlier, is the 3rd of June. A big thank you for coming, and thanks for Mark for co-hosting today. So unless anyone's got any last minute ones, we might sign off there. I guess a big thank you to everyone for all the work that you are doing, and in operating in a responsible manner, and making sure you're delivering terrific services for so many people in the outdoors. So a big thank you for that. So I'll sign off now, and yeah, look forward to seeing you again in June. Thanks, Bevo and Pete. So I'd just like to say, look after yourself, look after others, and look after the planet. Thanks for coming.